Welcome to day 4. Yes, can you believe you are this far in your journey? Is going fast, isn't it? So, how is that journaling going? Are you having these like, oh, this is crazy. I didn't know what was going on in this brain, and suddenly there's so much, and where did this all come from? Don't freak out. This is normal. We're just digging a little bit deeper than normal. So now what we're going to do that now we've really unraveled all of this nonsense. Now what we have to do is we're going to plan and build a future of what we actually want versus what we have right now. Because now it's all exposed. So let me tell you something. One thing about me is you'll notice I love plants. You can see plants pretty much all around me. Now, the thing with plants is, and this is, I learned this as I went on in life, is that our mind is like a garden, right? It is always, the subconscious mind is like a rich, fertile soil. And it is there, and no matter what seed you throw in, it's going to cause growth. And the more you water it, the more it's going to grow. It doesn't care the seed that you are throwing into this garden. It could be a seed of a weed, and it's going to give you the most beautiful weed, especially if you think about it all the time, which is watering, okay, and tending to it, which is watering and thinking about it the whole time. That is going to grow into the most spectacular weed you've ever had, because that is the job of the subconscious mind, is to give us rich, fertile soil, right? So I want you to think of your mind as a garden. And for a moment, I just want you to think, what is your garden at the moment? Is it a beautiful, lush garden with fantastic big trees and shade, beautiful flowers and things that bring you joy? Or is it a garden that is full of weeds? The grass hasn't been cut in a while. There's an old bench sitting there that's broken and rusted. And it's just weeds and stuff everywhere. Is that kind of where your mind and your garden is right now? Now, the good news about any garden, it doesn't matter the garden, is we can always create a new, beautiful garden. So think of your life as events, as plants. Think of trees and plants and shrubs and beauty. And sometimes, if we let something go for a while, weeds come up. Now, the interesting thing about a garden is no matter how great your garden is, you always have to take the weeds out. And yes, even sometimes it is necessary for some weeds to be there, because it could have great benefits to other plants, and it could have great benefits to even us. And like the dandelion, right? It could be a medicinal use for us, even though it's a weed. So here's the thing, everything in life has its place, as long as there's order and place in this life. And this is what I want you to say is, okay, I don't like the garden I have right now, because, but my subconscious is going to keep giving me fertile soil, rich fertile soil, and I can go and create something beautiful. And this is where our future comes in. Now that you know what you want, now that you know what you don't want, because this was yesterday's exercise, where it came from, now that you know the areas where your brain is and what your brain's doing and how it's thinking, now we're going to step into the future. So now we have to create a picture of ourselves in our future the way that we want to have. So I'm not too keen on the word visualize, because sometimes it could be a little bit, the mind can do weird things with the word visualize, right? So sometimes if I say, like, oh, I'm visualizing a picture of me in a car, the strange thing has actually happened is I end up with a picture of me in a car instead of a car. So it depends on your mind, but my mind is very analytical and my mind takes things very seriously. So I like using words like create, okay, instead of visualize. I like creating this version of myself. This, I almost role play as if you are going to go and become an actor. So what I want you to do is, on those areas, that wheel of life, and let's say you had a picture of yourself in perfect health. What does that picture look like? And what I want you to do is, I want you to write exactly what does does the you look like in that picture in your future? So what size clothing do you wear? Are you healthy? Are you fit? Do you hike? Do you run? Do you go to gym? Do you eat specific foods? Don't you eat specific foods? How do you think? How do you speak? How do you act? How do you act around other people? Let's say now you're going to a restaurant. How do you act? What would you order as that person who has this fantastic physique of a body, right? What is that person? Who are they? What do they think? What do they do? What do they feel? What do they say? What do they hear? What are they? Now, here's an interesting study, and I found this. It was done by Stanford University many years ago. So, this study basically, they took people and they did a role play study on them. It was X amount of people, and they said, right, half of you are going to climb into the role of being a prisoner, being in prison for some kind of something that they did wrong. The other half of you are going to be the prison guards. And after X amount of time, we're going to swap you guys around and see what happens. And I think it was supposed to be a 2 week. I forget the stats. It's a long time ago that I heard about it. So forgive me if I'm getting this wrong. But I want to give you the principle of the story. So what happened was, within the first week, they had to call it quits. Because what happened is that people actually took on the role. So the most placid, kind, loving people took on the role of being a prisoner, actually started thinking like a prisoner, behaving and acting like one. And here were the guards, the new guards, the prison guards, that again were soft, gentle people that actually became full of authority and actually violent at times. So they had to call it off and go, no, this is not working. But this is what we do. We live ourselves into a role. I actually have a couple. Now, how interesting is this? I actually have a couple who came in for a little bit of relationship work. And they couldn't understand, because what was happening before they got married, they were together for 7 years before they got married, right? Now, before they were married, they were extremely happy. Everything was wonderful. Everything was just, they couldn't wait to be married because this is something so exciting, and they really were like the perfect match. Yet, as soon as they were married, things started falling apart. They couldn't understand why, because how could it work 7 years prior and now it's not working? What is with that? Well, it is the role. So the question posed to them was simply this: what did you think of as yourself being married? Who was the person? What roles did they play? What did they think? What did they do? What did they versus before you got married? So in other words, we create personas according to the roles we have in our head. So the lady actually said she became like her mom, because her mom had the certain role. Now that she was married, she started doing things like her mom used to do because she was now married. So her only way of thinking as a married woman was her picture of her mom, and she became that. The guy, on the other hand, was like, well, he all of a sudden just started sitting back, relaxing in his chair. All the stuff they used to do before, go out and have fun, they had dropped that persona, and they had now taken up this new persona of this new role that they were fulfilling. Can you see where the problem came in? So what happens is we create, before we even move into this, we create this role, or we just think that this is the role that it's supposed to be. Think of yourself as a person without kids. You are a single person, you're free, and as soon as you have kids, you become all of a sudden overnight a different person, because now you take on the mom persona or a dad persona, and it becomes a whole different life for you. And if you often take on a role model of something that you remember, or you say, I never want to be like that, and you take on a different role model, but you'll make other mistakes, right? That's kind of human. It's what we do. But here's the thing, as some people happen subconsciously without us even really realizing, but we actually have a say in this. We have a say to start building that persona right now. Who is this person? Who do I want it to be? Rather than, oh, it's just going to happen and this is kind of what my mind imagined, that you can build it now. You can say, hey, what does it look like for a married couple to be together? We're awesome as non-married. What kind of marriage do we want to build, and what role do each of us play in? Have you ever heard of that in pre-marriage counseling? It's kind of not even spoken about, but don't you think it's important? Well, certainly was for me because nobody told me that I had to learn the hard way and fall off the other side to kind of understand that part and do lots of courses and become instructors and coaches to get that part right in life. Well, shortcut, you don't have to do that, which is fantastic. But now you get to build the person that you want to be. You get to imagine this person. What do they think? What do they hear? What do they say? How do they live? How do they walk? How do they breathe? How are they with other people? How are they with different types of people? Work people, family people, home people, networking people. How are they contributing back to life? So every area of your life, you're going to have to build a new persona of who you want to be. And every day we're going to take a step towards that person. We're going to think like them. We're going to work like them. We're going to talk like them. We're going to act like them. We're going to actually step in the shoes like they did in that Stanford study. We're going to step in the shoes and we're going to try it out and we're going to start living it today, not tomorrow, right now. And yes, there's going to be times you forget and you're going to catch yourself in the moment and go, oh, I forgot, and just go, oh, okay, it's my old mind. Just going back to old ways of weeding out stuff. But now what we're actually going to do is we're going to start building that garden that we were talking about. So we got two duties. We need to weed out, okay? And working on the future means every time that message comes up of the old us, we're going to say, old us, that's not where I want to go. And we're going to replace it with the new you picture, the new seed. Now remember, like any plant, from the seed to grow to a tree takes some time. It takes watering. It takes thinking about it over and over and over. Thinking is watering, okay? And every now and again, you have to do a workshop or you have to do something which is fertilizers and manures and all good stuff that's going to give that plant some massive growth and some happiness, right? So this is how we're going to start looking at your future life. Is you going to walk into those shoes. You're going to become that person today. The past is in the past. You got all the stuff that reminds you, excuse me, of the past. You can understand where the thoughts come from, and now you know where the pitfalls are. That's the most important part of today. You now know these are my pitfalls. You know that section that said, this is the stuff I think all the time? As soon as you catch yourself, you go, ha, I caught a weed. And what we're going to do is pull it out and replace it with the new persona of who you want to be. Oh, what does that person, Claire, in my future think about? What does she do? What does she say? What does she think about? Right? And you just gotta every time, and there's gonna be times that your mind just carries on the old way and you don't even realize. That's okay. As soon as you realize I caught it, pull out the weed, add a seed. Pull out a weed, add a seed. And the more you do it, the better it becomes. However, what we do is we go, this is difficult. I can't do this. And we go, whoa, and we let it go. If you want change in your life, you want things to change around you, you want the better life, this is the work that's needed. This is what nobody tells you. It isn't an easy journey. In the beginning, especially, you catch yourself, you almost want to say, like, geez, have I been thinking like this for all these years, for so long, without even realizing? Yes, we have. We have built neural pathways in our brain that's become habitual, that we've just taken on a role and we're just doing things without even our bodies doing stuff without us even realizing. We like, have you ever driven a car where you're thinking, how did I get here? Because I can't remember the route and I can't remember changing gears and I can't remember indicating. And sometimes I don't remember the route I actually took back home. Well, your body is so good at the unconscious already that it's just performing its duties without us even knowing, the subconscious mind. And you're going to catch a lot of that on the way. So for now, today, we are going to create this future and we're going to start living into that person. First, we're going to discover who is that person. How do they think? How do they walk? How do they see? How do they feel? What do they say? How do they contribute? We're going to think about all those things in every area of our life again. And then what we're going to do at the end is we're going to start thinking about that person and start living that person every single day, over and over and over. And every day it gets better and better and it expands and it expands and it expands. So tomorrow we have got an interesting one because tomorrow we are going to work back on the now and finding the evidence. Right, we're going to find the evidence and we are going to see how far in the journey are we, because many times it just feels like that thing is so far away, I'm never going to get there, and then we give up because it just seems so far and so difficult. This process is going to make you and remind you that this is happening right now in the moment. Bet you can't wait for tomorrow. Remember, phenomenal living is your birthright.